Hello, this is the breakdown for the grain sample, and yeah, here's what the sample sounds like. So the first sound is the chords, which comes from a one shot by Finny, and here's what the chords sound like. For the processing, I use an EQ to cut out some low end, and then I pan the chords to the right because in the one shot it was sort of like pan to the left, so I just wanted to balance the panning. And yeah, the next sound is the bass, which is a one shot from Finny once again. And yeah, here's what the bass sounds like. It's really simple. It's just like two notes. And for the processing, it's also very simple. I just use a limiter to compress the bass. I'm in the compressor section for Fruity Limiter. And yeah, that's just the bass. So yeah, the next sound is this lead, which is a one shot from Dyap and Damask's Ruins one shot kit. And I ran it through a mixer, which has thermal and then a Valhalla delay. And the time is set to 1/8. And let me go back to thermal and show you the preset. This is the Wobble Rider preset. Here's all the settings for it. And oh yeah, the lead sounds like this. So for the lead, what I did was I recorded the audio of it, not the MIDI. And how I'm doing that is I am right clicking on this record button. And from here you can like record different kind of things like the notes, automation, and then audio. So I did that. And then what I did was I clicked this little button on the bottom right here and I clicked Option R. And I think it's Alt R for Windows. And what this allows you to do is this allows you to record the audio from this mixer. So that's how I'm able to record my audio. And from there, I'm just repositioning it, making sure it fits within the sample. And then I take this audio, route it to a new mixer, and then add any processing if I need to. But this this one is routed to a chain and just has the panning set to the left like a bit. So yeah, um, there's that sound. And then this next sound is this one shot, which sounds like this. This sound, this is a one shot from dyap and guyzzi's pedalboard library. And what I'm doing here is I sent it to a mixer and I put sketch cassette over it. I'm just turning up the flutter, and then I have an EQ which cuts out some of the mids, and then I have a digitalis which I'm focusing on the corruption section, my bad. And I'm turning up the decimate amount and then the smoothness all the way up to 100. And then from here, I'm turning the mix down to 14%. And then back in the chain, I am turning this mix knob for digitalis down by 23%. So yeah, it's just a really subtle effect that just adds like a little bit of texture into one shot. So yeah, this next sound is this lead, which comes from Diva. This is the very first sound when you open up Diva, and I recorded some random phrases over it, like how I did with this lead right here. And then here's what this lead sounds like. And then when when I was recording, I just had a semantics lotus over it just to have some delay running through it. And then for the when I routed it to a new mixer, I'm just setting the panning to the right. And then I have this little EQ on the bottom right here that's just like slightly boosting the highs. I don't even think it's doing anything, but it's really subtle. So the next sound is this texture, which I believe comes from Hade's and Ute's Fairy Adventures kit. Yes, it does. This is one of the textures in the kit. And what I did to this was I pitched it down 257 cents, or pretty much, I'm not sure why. I guess the texture was just like a little bit out of tune for the sample. So that's why it's so specific. And then I pitched it down an octave, and then from here I have a Cymatics Lotus and a halftime, a sound shifter, and then an EQ to cut out some lows and highs. And here is what the texture sounds like. And then the very last thing is this little automation, which is just gradually making the volume for this texture um, louder. So yeah, this next sound is this guitar texture, which let me check for this. Comes from, I believe this is the dyap and damask runes one-shot kit again. So yes, this is the original texture. So I took that first half of the texture and I just let it repeat every like 2 bars, and then yeah, here's what that sounds like. And then for the third section of the sample, I took one of the parts of the texture and I pitched it up an octave. So from here, I think this doesn't have any processing, but for this version of the texture, it does, which is just an EQ, which is just cutting out some lows. And yeah, I'll show you what the second version of the texture sounds like. Just to have a little bit of variation in the sample. So yeah, the next sound is this noise, which comes from one of dyap's monthly kits. This is the Hiss 4 from his Loss kit. I believe this was his June kit, so I'm not sure if it's available anymore, but here's what the noise sounds like. Let me turn it up. This is just to add some ambience to the sample, and I'm making the noise mono, as you can see on the bottom. And I have this percussion loop, which is from the 44th floor, and I believe this is coming from the Satellites one-shot kit he just put out. So yeah, and here's what this percussion loop sounds like. And then there is no processing for this percussion loop. So yeah, for the last sound, it's this texture which comes from HCE's Hybrid Circuits one-shot kit, I believe. Yes, it does. I'm using one of the pedal chops from it, and I pitched it up like about 2 semitones, and then I have this delay over it. I set the time to 1/16th, and then yeah, here's what the texture sounds like. And then last but not least, I chopped the texture up just to kind of have a more percussive element. As you can see, in between, I have there's a little bit of separation in between each chop, which allows the texture to sound a bit more bouncy. So yeah, and then I also pan the texture to the right. I'm not sure if I said that already, but yeah, that's that's everything for the sounds. And I guess the last thing I want to show you is the master. So I have a sound shifter, which is just pitching the sample up 4 semitones. And then I have a good Hertz can opener, which kind of helps you mix better. It's because I guess what this plugin does is it kind of replicates the feeling of you mixing with like speakers. And since I don't have speakers, I just have headphones. This plugin makes it easier for me to mix. So yeah. And then there's this towel filter, which I did not end up using for the sample. So there's that. And then I have this limiter, which is just making the sample louder. And yeah, with all of that, that is the grain sample. Um, Hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know like what can I can improve on for these breakdowns. And yeah, thank you all.